Hello and welcome back to Pics and Portraits. I can't believe it, but it has been a year of our Sleepcore stream. I was thinking that there are a few different avenues that people can enter this channel, and depending on where you came in, it can be a little confusing as to what exactly Sleepcore is. So I wanted to make this video kind of looking back on why I made Sleepcore, how it's developed over the year, and where I see it going in the future. I am someone that's always had trouble falling asleep. At the time of this recording, it is 3:30 in the morning, and I've often relied on media to help me fall asleep, or at least to be there. Growing up in the late 90s and early 2000s, late night media generally meant trashy television, which I very much still have an affinity for. I love it. Often there was a sense of discovery to the programming. It was never really advertised, but you could count on it being different from what you would see during primetime or daytime television. It had a feeling to it, or a mood. This could be attributed to being exhausted or being half asleep and watching it. This was the feeling that I wanted to capture, or at least replicate. I had been producing content regularly for a few months, and the nature, I guess not to toot my own horn here, but the nature of what I do is very intensive and involves finding a bunch of clips, and when I was beautifully unemployed, it was much easier to dedicate that time to it. However, last winter, I found myself with a full-time job and very little time to work on anything, though of course I still wanted content to go up. Streaming seemed like a great idea, however with my anxiety and I guess inexperience talking into a microphone, it didn't really make sense to me to just kind of jump on and do a stream. It's very difficult for me to project my voice and words to come out and make any sort of sense clearly, just illustrating this as an example. I've always had an interest in television broadcasting, specifically content programming and curation, sort of mapping out shows and pairing them together in programming blocks. That appeals to me, so that clicked, and I knew that's the sort of show that I wanted to do and the kind of streaming I wanted to do. But then came the issue of what? At the time, I was watching a lot of old industrial films as well as broadcasts from the 70s and 80s. That's generally my favorite kinds of aesthetics are from the late 70s, early 80s. And I found something very calming about it. And I remember that feeling I was talking about earlier of staying up late and watching TV through tired eyes. So I decided I would present media for sleep. The name Sleepcore comes from hardcore or dadcore, that sort of naming convention. And initially I intended it to be a sleep aid. I hoped that people would watch it and fall asleep, so I kind of picked content that was dull, mildly interesting, and had a certain aesthetic to it that was friendly towards falling asleep. Rather than just dumping content, though, I wanted it to be curated in a way, centered around a theme. Now, early on, these themes were kind of weird. I had the county fair as well as blizzards, and I was planning on streaming it between midnight and 6 a.m. Now, it was very difficult finding the amount of content to fill that time centered around one theme, and so I decided to take a quality over quantity approach and deliver a tighter, more digestible experience. The decision to have it fade in and out from television static came from, obviously, television reception, with bunny ears or radio, where you would only be able to get certain channels or certain programs on a clear night. The bumpers were added, not only for branding purposes, but also to add that legitimacy, that feeling that you are watching a television network. I was also using an introduction, or overture, as I like to refer to it as, with clips related to the theme, playing with Pleasant Dreams by Joe Davis and the Five Red Caps. It's a beautiful song. And I thought set the tone very nicely for the stream, but found people were clicking away, believing that that was all it was, and not really staying for the content. So unfortunately, I had to scrap that. Rather than fully recreate a programming block, I wanted to, I guess, allude to the experience of late night channel surfing. And so you would have programs cut off halfway through, or begin, cut away, and then 20 minutes or so later, tune back in. And so that's the format, or I guess the structure. But in terms of content, again, early on, it was a sleep aid. I was picking content that was slow. But remembering that feeling I had mentioned earlier, I wanted to make it weirder. When picking the content for the show, I do have certain guidelines that I follow. Obviously, it does need to relate to the theme, but also it has to have a certain aesthetic quality to it. Now, that does not mean everything has to match. I do enjoy changes in mood, and I do prefer degraded videotape or film that has a character to it and have kind of worked into the identity and personality of Sleepcore. And finally, I search out content that has a certain idiosyncratic quality to it. Generally, the weirder the better, but also something that is more obscure. They have to dig a little deeper for. I think that all of this adds to the, dare I say, Sleepcore experience. I'm extremely proud of what I've accomplished with this. I've had people imitate it, which is very flattering and very strange. But more importantly, I've had people come to me or comment and say, what you do, this helps me. This is something I didn't know that I needed. And to be able to deliver that to somebody is such an amazing feeling. As for where Sleepcore is heading, with copyright being what it is, generally I try to pick things that are either in the public domain or their status is ambiguous. We still do receive a lot of copyright claims. No, I don't care about this. You know, if this is somebody's content, they deserve to be paid for it, and I never plan on monetizing this channel. If you would like to support me, patreon.com/pixandportraits. But these streams still do run the risk of being taken down. Lately, I've also been interested in creating video collages, and I would love to find a way to use that and to evolve Sleepcore into a more unique and original experience. Until then, however, it will be business as usual. Now that includes an upcoming celebratory stream where we will honor the original intention of having it air between midnight and 6 a.m. That will be announced a few days before we do it. If there was any confusion, I hope this video has cleared up what exactly Sleepcore is. And if this is your first video, do please subscribe. If not, thank you so much for your interest and your support. I am very interested in knowing what appeals to you about Sleepcore, so feel free to comment down below maybe your favorite episode or suggest a future theme. Once again, patreon.com/pixandportraits if you would like to support us financially. You can receive everything we publish, as well as exclusive videos for just $5 a month. I'm Brian Clark. Thank you so much for watching.